always hearing these massive numbers, right? India is on its way to becoming a $36 trillion economy by 2047. It's a huge, staggering figure. But have you ever stopped to wonder how we actually measure an economy that big? And maybe more importantly, are we even doing it right? Let's dive in.
So it all boils down to this one big question, which is what this new research is all about. Is a huge chunk of India's real, grassroots economic activity just hiding in plain sight? Something we've been missing all along with our current methods?
You know, we all see the big national GDP figures, right? The headlines about growth. But those numbers are just massive averages. And the thing is, when you zoom in, when you get to the district level, the ground level, a completely different story starts to emerge.
And that brings us to what the source for this explainer calls India's economic blind spot. Right now, we mostly rely on state-level data, or GSDP, to get a handle on regional economies. But this view from 30,000 feet, well, it can be incredibly deceiving. I'll show you exactly what I mean.
Okay, so take a look at Uttarakhand. It has 13 districts, but just 3 of them, Haridwar, Udham Singh Nagar, and Dehradun, are responsible for over 70% of the state's entire economy. Think about that for a second. The economic reality for the other 10 districts is pretty much just washed away by the state average.
And if you think that's a big gap, hold on, let's look at Karnataka. It's even more extreme here. A single district, Bangalore Urban, makes up a whopping 38.6% of the state's economy. The next biggest contributor, just 5.5%. The entire state's economic identity is basically being defined by this one single powerhouse city. So here's the crucial takeaway. This pattern, this heavy concentration in just a few areas, is incredibly common all across India. And what that means is, for the huge majority of our 760-plus districts, state-level data isn't just simplifying the picture, it's basically making their real, unique economic stories invisible.
So how in the world did we end up with this massive blind spot? Well, it all comes down to the method. For decades, India has been using what's called a top-down method to guess at what district economies look like. Let's really dig into why this system just doesn't cut it.
The top-down method basically takes the state's whole economic pie, and then it tries to slice it up and give a piece to each district. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. It does this using other numbers, like workforce data or how much electricity is being used. So it's not actually measuring what's happening on the ground. It's really just a highly educated guess.
And the problems with this are, well, they're huge. The biggest one, it pretty much ignores the massive informal sector. We're talking about the small businesses, the self-employed folks. That's almost half of India's GDP, and get this, 90% of the workforce. It also totally messes up what we think is happening in different industries, and it's completely useless for seeing local economic shocks like what we all saw happen during the pandemic. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Back in 2021, a report from the Madhya Pradesh government itself said that these estimates are getting de-linked from ground realities. You know you have a serious problem when the government itself starts questioning its own data. So here's a simple way to think about it. The old top-down method, it's basically a sophisticated guess. What's being proposed to replace it, the bottom-up approach, that's about finding real, solid, ground-level evidence. This brings us to the really exciting part. The solution that the researchers are proposing, a totally new way of seeing the economy by, you guessed it, building it from the ground up. The bottom-up method completely flips the script. Instead of guessing from the state level down, you start at the ground level. You actually compile the economic data directly from the source, from the businesses, the households, the local records inside every single district, and then you just add it all up.
So how would this actually work? Well, it centers around 2 key surveys. First, one that actually goes out and captures data from all those informal businesses we talked about, the kirana stores, the local factories, you name it. Then, a second survey figures out who's working where. You put those 2 together, and for the first time, you can calculate a much, much truer picture of a district's economy.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just some idea on paper. The researchers actually put this new method to the test in a huge pilot study in Uttar Pradesh. And trust me, the results are absolutely eye-opening. So, they picked 4 really diverse and important districts: Kanpur, Gorakhpur, Varanasi, and Meerut. They went in, did the real on-the-ground surveys, and calculated each district's economy from the bottom up. And then, they compared their new numbers to the old official estimates.
And the difference was just staggering. Just look at this chart for unincorporated manufacturing. The old official estimates consistently, dramatically fell short. The new bottom-up numbers uncovered this massive amount of economic activity that was just being completely missed.
Let me just throw one number at you, 148%. In the District of Merit, the old way underestimated the value of its local manufacturing sector by 148%. I mean, that's not a small rounding error. That's a completely different reality. The real local economy was more than double what the official data was telling us.
So, why does all this matter so much? Why should you care? Because getting this right isn't just some boring academic exercise. It is an absolute game changer for how we make policy, where we invest, and how we build a better future. First off, it's about just catching up with the rest of the world. All the other major economies, Germany, the US, China, they already measure their economies at the local level. The European Union even uses this kind of data to decide where to send development funds. For India to be a modern global power, this isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
And just think about what this unlocks. With good data, you can finally have fairer fund allocation. You can design local policies that actually solve local problems. It leads to smarter investment, a stronger federal system, and ultimately, it's the only way we can achieve that national goal of balanced, inclusive growth, a real cornerstone of big visions like Viksit Bharat 2047.
Which really leaves us with this one final thought. For decades, you could argue, we've been trying to manage and grow our national economy while partially blindfolded. This new approach shows us how to finally take that blindfold off. So the real question for all of us is, once we can truly see our economy in all its local, vibrant detail, what can we build with it?